women want to look good, and the handbag has been an important part of a woman's outfit for many decades. Today, financially savvy fashionistas have vintage bags on their arms and dollar signs on their mind. Because vintage bags not only look good, they can be sold for a profit.
That's the special thing about vintage bags. If you buy a vintage bag today, something from the 1950s or 1960s, maybe a classic sculptural shaped leather bag, you could resell it again 6 months later for the same price with maybe an additional 20 to 30% more. If you buy a present-day bag from any of the designer stores and you sell it 6 months later, the price will drop by 20 to 30%. Present-day bags sell on the newness of the item. Vintage bags, the older they are, the more value they hold.
But before you start treasure hunting, take note. It takes years of experience to spot a vintage bag. Arm yourself with knowledge on the style, designer, brand history, and other essential information. Because what you want to bring home is a valuable piece of history, not a fabulous fake made last week. Here are a few things you should look out for before handing over your money.
The kind of material that's used, the way it is made, the stitching, for instance, the texture of the fabric, if it's a piece of clothing. Vintage fabric is very different from present-day fabric. You look at certain details like the zippers or the hardware that's used to make the handbag. It's very different from what we use today. So that's how you can distinguish between something that's very old and something that's new.
Joanna Lin, a private tutor, has been collecting vintage items for over 7 years and owns more than 100 vintage bags. Her advice is not to invest randomly. To maximize the investment potential of your bags, concentrate on collecting bags of a certain set, investing in timeless, iconic style, and buying the story behind the bag. First, invest by set.
It's always good to focus on a particular bag or a particular brand or a particular style and build a collection. Sometimes if a buyer is looking for the entire collection, he would pay a lot of money just to own that collection. And depending on the pieces in that collection, do they represent different periods of that brand, for instance, then it would be a very interesting collection. And people will pay money for that.
Second, invest in bags with timeless style. Look out for bags with iconic designs. There is often better demand for such pieces. For an investor, this means such bags are more likely to sell for a higher price. For Gucci, the one to look out for is their range of bags with bamboo handles. This well-loved design made its debut about 65 years ago.
Gucci is famous for its bamboo handle. Yeah, that particular range is intricate and it's good investment pieces. They won't depreciate. In fact, they will appreciate because you won't find bags in that era in such good condition. Like, for example, a bag they can fetch up to about 1,000. These are part of my collection, vintage Gucci. Usually most of them are ranges from the early 80s to early 90s. I particularly like this Gucci bag. This bag is actually in the early 90s where it was carried by Princess Diana before. It's a very understated Gucci piece, but for Gucci fans, they will be able to identify it Gucci because of the signature bamboo handles, where they painstakingly heat it up and bend it. Everything is handmade. I got this at the steal at Dustbunny. This bag is about 600. Maybe a couple of years down, it'll cost 1,000 because you won't find this in the market anymore. And for good condition, vintage branded bags, it's rare. So the price will definitely appreciate.
And she is onto a good thing. Christie's is auctioning off similar second-hand vintage Gucci bamboo bags at a price range of about £600 or 1,200 Singapore dollars to a whopping £3,000, which is about 6,000 Singapore dollars. And third, invest in bags with a story. This refers to bags that reflect a bygone era, bags that are unique to a certain time and place. They are part of social history. Serious collectors and museums seek out these pieces and place a high value on them.
We have a vintage clutch bag from the 1970s. We call this the magazine clutch because it's made from a magazine cover. In the 70s, there were a lot of snatch thieves, so to camouflage the purse, they made a cover out of a magazine to cover the purse, so it looks just like a rolled-up magazine when you carry it under your arm. Something like this costs about only $160 to $170, but it's probably worth a lot more, especially in the US where these things are very much in demand. This is a 1940s plastic coil wire bag. The reason why you see plastic coils in this bag is because in the 1940s, during the Second World War, there was a shortage of leather. All the leather had to go to the war effort, so they couldn't make bags with leather anymore. So the other alternative was to use plastic. Plastic was a new material, up-and-coming new technology in America at that time. So a lot of plastic was used to make handbags as an alternative material. Now this piece, because of its history background and the fact that it's from the 1940s, will cost between 100 to 200 US.
Whatever vintage bag you decide to invest in, remember that it has to be in good condition. Stains on the leather, mildew, torn lining and other damage reduce the value of the bag. And remember, the rarer the bag, the more valuable it becomes over time.
And the purse that she's carrying, this is from the 1940s. It's also a very, very rare piece in excellent condition. It's made of brass with rhinestones. And what's unusual about it is actually a compact purse. It holds all the personal items of a lady. We have the lipstick holder, a comb, powder, and of course the mirror. This costs somewhere between $200 to $300 as well. And again, it's a very collectible piece.
Ultimately, investing in quality vintage bags bring you not only financial gain, but also makes you look good and gives you the perfect excuse to go shopping again. For the fashion conscious, vintage bags could be your investment heaven.